You ever get that feeling when something just doesn't add up? Like there's a secret buried so deep it's clawing at the edges of your mind, refusing to stay silent? That's exactly where I found myself not too long ago, standing outside a church in our quiet town, feeling like the ground beneath me was cracking open. This isn't just any church, it's the one place my wife now avoids at all costs. And here's the catch. Years ago, she was listed as missing there. Yes, you heard that right. Missing. Not once, but officially recorded as missing by the very people who run that church, right in the heart of our town. If you're watching this video, you're probably wondering why I'm telling you this, why it matters, and more importantly, what really happened to my wife. Trust me, by the time you finish this video, you'll understand exactly why this mystery has haunted us both, and why it might haunt you, too. This story is about far more than a woman avoiding a building. It's about trust breaking, secrets lurking beneath the surface of everyday life, and the things we never expect from the people we love the most. You might be thinking, why would she avoid a church? What could be so terrifying about that? And honestly, I ask myself the same question every day. The church should be a place of peace and safety, right? But in our town, it's the opposite, a place that feels heavy with shadows and silence. I'll take you through everything: the strange phone calls, the late-night whispers, and the dark history that connected my wife to this place long before I met her. What I uncovered is something I never imagined, and it's why I'm sitting here, telling you this story. Before I go further, let me say this. I'm not just here to tell you a spooky tale. I want you to see it through my eyes, to feel the fear and confusion I lived every day as I pieced this puzzle together. Maybe you've felt the weight of a secret too, or the chill that comes with realizing someone you trust is hiding a side of themselves. That's why I'm inviting you on this journey with me, to dive deep into a mystery that's part personal nightmare, part haunting revelation. We'll meet the key players, uncover the strange disappearances in our town's history, and wrestle with the uncomfortable truth that sometimes the past doesn't stay buried where it belongs. And if you're someone who loves true stories, mysteries, or even just a gripping drama about trust and loss, I promise this video will keep you hooked. Now, you might be wondering, how did I even find out she was once listed as missing? How does that even happen? It wasn't by accident. I stumbled onto it when I was trying to understand why she refused to go anywhere near that church. At first, I thought it was just some weird quirk, maybe a bad memory, or an old trauma she didn't want to talk about. But when you dig a little deeper and start asking questions, the pieces start moving on their own, almost like they want to tell you something. The church's records, local news archives, even some old police reports, all of it pointed back to a time when my wife vanished without a trace, and no one could explain why or how she came back. That revelation turned everything upside down. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I trusted with my life, had a past that was shrouded in silence and fear. Why did she come back? What was she running from? And why has she been running ever since? These questions kept me awake at night, twisting inside my head like a knot I couldn't untie. And it wasn't just about her. It was about us, our marriage, our future, and the shadow that this mystery cast over every moment we shared. But here's the thing, this story isn't just about the past. It's about how the past refuses to stay gone, about the way secrets seep into your everyday life until they take over everything you thought was normal. If you've ever felt like your world was unraveling, like someone close to you is hiding something dangerous, you're not alone. And that's exactly why I need you to watch the story all the way through, because what I'm about to reveal might change how you see trust, love, and the very idea of safety in the places we think are sacred. So stick with me as I take you behind the scenes of a quiet town with a dark history, a church that holds more than just prayers, and a wife who carries a secret that might just destroy everything. We're going to explore the chilling reality of what it means to disappear without a trace, and the terrifying possibility that sometimes, when someone comes back, they're not the same person who left. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand why she avoids that church, you'll feel the weight of that truth, and maybe even wonder what you would do if you were in my shoes. But be warned, the deeper I dig, the more questions arise. What I found lurking in the shadows of that church wasn't just a missing persons case. It was something far darker, something that ties to our whole town's past, and maybe even beyond. The story doesn't end with her return. It only begins there. I'm diving right back into the story, layering in background, relationships, and red herrings to keep the suspense thick and the mystery alive, crafted with a natural flow and a tone that grips the US audience, using trending keywords subtly to boost engagement. Since that chilling discovery about the church and my wife's past, my life hasn't been the same. Every day feels like walking through a fog where familiar faces suddenly seem like strangers, and every smile hides a secret. I've spent countless nights replaying moments, trying to find a clue that might explain why she disappeared once, only to return without a word, and why now. She's avoiding the one place that should have been a sanctuary. It's strange how people change when they carry secrets so heavy they can't even meet your eyes without flinching. Our conversations have grown tense, filled with pauses that feel like cracks in the foundation of what we built together. I want to believe the woman I married is still there, somewhere beneath the surface of all this mystery, but sometimes it feels like she's slowly slipping away into someone I don't recognize. Before all this, life seemed simple, or at least as simple as it can be in a small town where everyone knows your business, whether you like it or not. We had routines, weekends spent with friends, church on Sundays, and quiet dinners that felt comfortable. But lately, those routines have been replaced with unease. I noticed it first in the way she'd change the subject when I asked about her past, the way she'd avoid places, people, even conversations that might lead back to that old chapter of her life. When I tried to dig, her answers became vague, defensive. And that only made me more curious and more worried. Who was she before I met her? What was the story behind those missing person reports, and why had it never come up until now? The more I asked around town, the more I realized I was stepping into a web of silence and half-truths. Neighbors who once smiled politely now looked away when I mentioned the church or my wife's name. Old friends seemed reluctant, their eyes flickering with something like fear or guilt. There were whispers about people who disappeared, strange accidents, and unexplained events linked to that church's shadowy past. Some said the place was cursed, others swore they'd heard rumors about secret meetings, or something darker beneath the surface. It was as if the town itself wanted to keep its secrets buried, and my questions were stirring a sleeping giant. One of the more unsettling parts is how many people seem to have had contact with her around the time she vanished years ago. There's this man who once ran a local diner where she used to work, and he gave me a story that didn't quite add up. According to him, she left abruptly one night after a heated argument with someone he refused to name. Then there's an old church caretaker, a grizzled man who barely spoke but stared at me like I was the one hiding something. When I pressed him about those missing person reports, he just muttered about things better left alone. It felt like every door I opened led to another locked room, another secret carefully guarded by fear or shame. What makes this even more complicated is the strange behavior that followed her return. She started acting distant, sometimes like she was being watched, always checking over her shoulder. I noticed her phone was always locked, and strange texts would appear and disappear before I could see them. Late at night, I heard whispers and soft footsteps outside our door, but whenever I checked, no one was there. Friends began to drift away, or at least that's how it felt. There was an unspoken tension, like I was being pushed out of a story I wasn't supposed to be part of. I questioned if I was losing her, or if she was protecting me from something darker than I could imagine. The more I tried to hold onto what I thought was real, the more the lines between reality and paranoia blurred. Was the church really at the center of all this? Or was it just a convenient place to hide from whatever haunted her? Were the people around us innocent bystanders? Or were some of them hiding something that could explain everything? I started wondering if the disappearance was a carefully crafted lie, or maybe the truth was so twisted that no one wanted to face it. The town's history of missing people, strange disappearances, and whispered rumors felt like a puzzle, but the pieces didn't fit neatly. Each new lead came with more questions than answers, and the feeling that something or someone was watching me grew stronger every day. I remember one night in particular when everything came crashing down. She had been unusually quiet all day, refusing to eat, refusing to talk about anything. Then suddenly, she told me she needed to go somewhere she hadn't been in years. Without telling me where, she left, and for hours, I was left alone, pacing, drowning in worry and suspicion. When she finally came back, her eyes were red, her hands trembling. She didn't say a word about where she had been, but I saw a flash of something I'd never seen before: fear. Real, raw fear. It made me realize this wasn't just about her avoiding the church or her past disappearance anymore. It was about something lurking beneath all of it, something that had come back to threaten us both. So, who can I trust? The people who close their doors and pretend nothing happened? The ones who glare when I bring up the church or the missing person reports? Or the woman I love, who holds her cards so close I can't tell if she's protecting me or protecting herself from a nightmare she can't escape? The truth feels so close, yet so far away, wrapped in layers of silence and shadows. This story isn't just about a missing woman anymore. It's about the secrets we keep, the lies we tell ourselves, and the darkness that waits patiently just beyond the light of our everyday lives. Just when I thought I was finally getting a handle on the truth, the entire ground beneath me shifted again, almost as if the story didn't want to be uncovered. It started subtly, like a cold breeze slipping through a cracked window, but soon it turned into a storm that threatened to drown everything I'd been chasing. The key piece of evidence I had clung to, the faded journal I found tucked away in an old desk drawer at the church's back office, vanished without a trace. One moment, it was there, its yellowed pages filled with scribbles and names, dates and places that connected my wife's disappearance to others in the town's shadowy past. The next, it was gone. I searched everywhere, retraced my steps countless times, even asked the few people I trusted if they had seen it. No one had. It felt like someone or something was watching my every move, silently warning me to stop digging before I got too close. The creeping fear wasn't just about what I might find, it was about what might find me if I kept pushing forward. Adding to the confusion, I started receiving strange messages. Cryptic notes slipped under our front door, anonymous calls with nothing but heavy breathing on the other end, and one particularly chilling voicemail telling me to leave it alone before it's too late. These weren't just random acts. They were calculated attempts to silence me, to make me question whether this mystery was worth the danger it posed. But the thing is, once you've tasted the truth, it becomes impossible to look away, no matter how much you want to protect yourself or the people you love. What hurt most was realizing I couldn't even trust the people who seemed closest. There's a man in our circle, someone I'd called a friend, whose calm demeanor started to crack in the presence of these revelations. He was the one who urged me to drop the whole thing, warned me about consequences I couldn't begin to understand. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw something darker than concern. Was he trying to protect me? Or was he protecting himself? The lines between ally and adversary blurred in a way that left me questioning every interaction. Then there was the shadow of a hidden betrayal from the past, a secret event that suddenly surfaced in hushed conversations and pointed glances. It seemed that years ago, before I ever knew her, my wife was connected to a group of people who weren't just ordinary townsfolk. Rumors whispered of clandestine meetings held under the cover of darkness, of promises broken and loyalties severed. The more I dug, the more it felt like I was unearthing a network of lies designed to keep certain truths buried forever. Someone had betrayed her, and by extension, betrayed the trust of the entire community. But who?
And why?
The answers felt just beyond my reach, concealed behind a maze of deception so intricate it threatened to swallow me whole. As if that wasn't enough, another twist complicated this already tangled web. A close relative of mine, someone I'd never expected to be pulled into this nightmare, started receiving similar warnings, strange symbols drawn on their mailbox and ominous threats whispered from the shadows. Suddenly, this mystery wasn't just mine to solve. It was spreading, infecting the people I cared about, making the stakes higher than ever before. What began as a personal quest to understand my wife's past had become a battle against a force that didn't want the truth revealed. And when new evidence surfaced that contradicted everything I thought I knew, I was left grasping at fragments of reality that refused to fit together. Each clue seemed to unravel what came before, twisting the narrative into something unrecognizable. At this point, I couldn't tell friend from foe, truth from lie, safety from danger. Every conversation, every glance, every silence carried weight, and paranoia crept in like a shadow I couldn't shake. This wasn't just about a missing persons case anymore. It was a dark puzzle woven into the fabric of our town, involving secrets no one dared to speak aloud and betrayals that cut deeper than I could have imagined. The deeper I went, the more I realized that uncovering the truth might come at a price I wasn't sure I, or anyone, was willing to pay. And just when I thought the pieces might start to fall into place, an unexpected message arrived, one that contradicted everything I had believed so far. It was a letter, and signed and cryptic, hinting at a hidden truth that would change the entire story. The words were simple, but their implication was anything but, "Not everything you see is what it seems. Watch your back." The silence that followed felt heavier than any revelation. I was left standing in the middle of a mystery that had expanded beyond anyone's control, with no clear path forward and no one I could truly trust. The question now wasn't just who or what was behind all this, but whether I could survive long enough to find out. Just when I thought the nightmare was confined to my own life, the shadows started reaching out further than I ever expected, pulling others into this tangled web of secrets and suspicion. My younger brother, someone who had always been the steady, grounded one in our family, began receiving strange, unsettling messages that mirrored the warnings I'd been getting. It started with a plain envelope slipped under his door, no return address, and inside, a single photograph, a grainy, blurred image of him standing outside the very same church that my wife now refuses to even mention. Along with the photo was a note scribbled in hurried handwriting, saying only, "You don't know what you're walking into." I could see the fear settle in his eyes the moment he showed me, the same kind of fear that had begun to haunt my wife and me. Suddenly, the mystery wasn't just a dark secret buried in the past. It was alive, reaching into the present, threatening to unravel everything and everyone I cared about. As if that wasn't enough, an unexpected discovery hit me like a punch to the gut. While digging through some old boxes in the attic, I found a torn piece of a newspaper clipping that completely contradicted the story I'd been piecing together about my wife's disappearance. The article suggested that the timeline everyone believed was wrong, that she wasn't missing for just a few weeks or months, but years, and that the town's authorities had closed the case without ever really finding her. Even more shocking was a mention of someone else who had vanished around the same time, someone who was rumored to be connected to a secret society operating under the guise of the church. Suddenly, the neat narrative I thought I was following splintered into 1,000 confusing pieces. Who was this other person? Was my wife involved? Or was she a victim caught in something much bigger than we ever imagined? The more I shared with my brother, the more we realized that the people we trusted might not be who they seemed. Neighbors who once offered sympathy suddenly grew cold or suspicious. Old friends seemed to avoid us altogether, and whispers of betrayal lingered like smoke in the air. Even a few of my wife's closest confidants appeared to have hidden agendas, their stories shifting when pressed too hard. I began to question everything I thought I knew about my relationships, about loyalty and truth in a place that now felt more like a trap than a home. The line between friend and foe blurred, and paranoia crept in like a shadow I couldn't outrun. In the middle of all this, a mysterious figure emerged, someone who claimed to have information about the church's darkest secrets and my wife's past, but only if I was willing to pay the price. Their cryptic warnings and veiled threats hinted at a hidden world beneath our town's peaceful facade, a place where power and deception ruled, and where the consequences of uncovering the truth could be deadly. I didn't know if I could trust this person, or if they were simply another piece of the puzzle meant to confuse and mislead me. But one thing was clear: the stakes were higher than ever, and every step forward was a step deeper into danger. As the pieces of the puzzle shifted and twisted, I found myself trapped in a story that was no longer just about one missing person or one church. It was about a network of secrets that stretched across years, involving people I once believed to be innocent, and forces that would stop at nothing to keep the past buried. The threats, the contradictory evidence, the creeping sense of betrayal, all of it pointed to one chilling truth. In this town, the real mystery was not who was missing, but who was hiding in plain sight. And just when I thought I might finally be able to catch a break, a new message arrived, this time addressed to both me and my brother. The note was brief, but devastating in its simplicity. "Stop digging, or you'll disappear next." The silence that followed was deafening, and I knew that whatever this was, it wasn't just a warning. It was a promise. The night everything shifted from uneasy to truly terrifying came without warning, creeping in on the edges of a quiet evening that should have felt safe. I was sitting alone in the dim light of our living room, the shadows casting strange shapes across the walls, when I first sensed it, an almost imperceptible presence outside, the subtle crunch of gravel beneath slow, deliberate footsteps. At first, I told myself it was just my imagination, the anxiety from all the strange messages and disappearing evidence playing tricks on me. But then the sound didn't stop. It grew closer, more persistent, and my heart began pounding like a drum in my chest. When I finally dared to peek through the window, the street was empty, but I caught a glimpse of a figure disappearing into the darkness. That was when the panic settled in, a cold weight pressing down on my chest. I wasn't just chasing shadows anymore, I was being hunted by them. The days that followed blurred into a nightmare I couldn't escape. My wife, already distant and fragile, seemed more withdrawn than ever, her eyes haunted by something I couldn't reach. Then the unthinkable happened. My brother vanished. One minute he was there, sharing his fears and doubts with me, and the next, he was gone without a trace. His apartment was untouched, his phone unanswered, and the only clue left behind was a chilling note on his kitchen table that read, "Silence is your only safety." I was gripped by a surge of helplessness and terror that gnawed at my sanity. How could someone disappear so completely in a town I thought I knew? And why was this happening to the people closest to me? The realization hit me like a freight train. The mystery I'd been trying to solve was no longer just a story. It was a matter of life and death. Every night since then has been a battle with paranoia. I find myself double-checking locks, glancing over my shoulder every few minutes, jumping at the smallest noise. Trust is a distant memory. The faces of neighbors and friends have morphed into potential threats, their casual smiles masking secrets that could unravel everything. I question every word, every gesture, and even my own memories. The fear isn't just about the unknown anymore. It's about the possibility that the people I love might be involved, that the betrayal runs deeper than I could have imagined. What kind of darkness can make a community, a family, unravel so completely? And how do you fight something that hides in plain sight, using silence and fear as its weapons? I've found myself haunted by questions I can't shake. Who sent those messages? What did they want from my brother and now for me? Was his disappearance a warning or a punishment? And most terrifying of all, if someone close to me can vanish without a trace, am I next? The answers feel like they're slipping through my fingers, obscured by a fog of deception and danger. Every lead I follow only seems to deepen the mystery, revealing more shadows than light. The church, the missing person reports, the whispered betrayals, they all intertwine into a dark tapestry I'm desperate to unravel, but terrified to confront. As the pressure mounts, I can't ignore the creeping thought that maybe this isn't just about my wife's past or our town's secrets anymore. Maybe I stumbled onto something much bigger, something that powerful people want to keep hidden at any cost. And now, I'm trapped in the middle of it, caught between fear and determination, unsure who to trust or where to turn. The only certainty is that the danger is real, closing in faster than I ever expected, and the clock is ticking. If I don't find answers soon, I don't know if I, or anyone I care about, will make it out. Just when the weight of fear and suspicion felt unbearable, when every shadow seemed poised to swallow me whole, The truth landed like a thunderclap, shattering everything I thought I knew and turning the entire story inside out. It came from the one person I least expected, someone who had stood by me through every late night, every frantic phone call, every whispered theory, my wife. But this time, she wasn't hiding away from the past. She was stepping forward, revealing a secret so deeply buried it rewrote the narrative entirely. The church, the missing reports, the mysterious messages, they weren't the beginning of the mystery, but merely the surface of something far more twisted. She told me that years ago, before I met her, she had been involved in something she called the experiment, something the town wanted forgotten, and that her disappearance was not a random vanishing but a forced escape from forces much darker than a missing person case. What I had been chasing wasn't just a disappearance, it was a cover-up of something unnatural, something people had sacrificed everything to keep hidden. As she spoke, I realized how much I had missed. The subtle changes in her behavior, the cryptic warnings, the way she avoided the church wasn't out of fear of a place, but fear of what was buried beneath it. She confessed that those around us, the trusted neighbors, the quiet friends, even some family members, were not innocent witnesses, but players in a larger, shadowy game where loyalty was bought and sold, and the line between protector and predator was razor-thin. She revealed that my brother's disappearance might not have been random but tied to his accidental discovery of a hidden truth, something the town's power brokers feared would unravel their carefully constructed illusion. This wasn't just about a missing person or a haunted church. It was about a secret society with roots deep in our town's history, controlling lives, erasing memories, and silencing those who got too close. Suddenly, every clue I had found, the vanished journal, the cryptic notes, the threatening messages, made a twisted kind of sense. They were warnings, yes, but also traps designed to lead me away from the core truth. The more I had dug, the more I had been maneuvered into a dangerous dance, where each step threatened to bring me closer to destruction. The person who warned me to stop digging wasn't just trying to protect me, they were trying to protect themselves, or perhaps the entire operation that had been running under the surface for decades. And in that moment, I had to ask the hardest question of all: how many people I trusted were truly on my side? Who was really watching me from the shadows, and what were they willing to do to keep the secret safe? The twist didn't stop there. An unexpected figure emerged from the silence, a former town official who had disappeared years ago under suspicious circumstances, now resurfacing with a warning of their own. They claimed that the experiment wasn't just a chapter in the past, but an ongoing operation, one that had infiltrated every corner of the town's government and institutions. This person held pieces of evidence that contradicted everything the police report said and suggested a conspiracy so vast it made the missing person cases look like mere distractions. Their sudden appearance threw everything into chaos, forcing me to question not just my wife's story, but the reality of the town itself. At this point, the line between victim and perpetrator blurred completely. What I thought was a straightforward quest for truth had become a maze of lies, hidden agendas, and dangerous secrets. The question wasn't just what had happened to my wife or my brother anymore, it was what was being hidden, who was involved, and whether the truth was something the world was ready to face. The stakes had grown beyond personal loss. They were about exposing a shadowy power that thrived on silence and fear. And just as I started to grasp the scale of what I was dealing with, I realized something chilling. This story wasn't just about uncovering the past, but surviving the present. Because now, more than ever, I was a target. The question wasn't if they would come for me next, but when. The night I'd been dreading finally arrived like a storm breaking over a fragile coastline, shaking everything I thought was solid and leaving me exposed to the raw fury beneath. Every thread of the mystery, the missing reports, the hidden society, the vanished brother, and the dark past my wife had tried to protect me from, pulled tight into one unbearable moment. I stood face to face with the person who had orchestrated it all, the shadowy figure who had manipulated lives and hidden the truth behind a veil of lies. The air was thick with tension, heavy with the knowledge that this confrontation could be the end or the beginning of something even darker. I could feel my heart hammering, my mind racing as I tried to read their intentions through the cold mask they wore. This wasn't just about answers anymore. It was about survival. The villain, calm yet terrifying in their control, revealed the final piece of the puzzle, an admission that sent shockwaves through every part of me. They confessed that the experiment wasn't just a town secret, but a calculated effort to manipulate reality itself, using people like pawns to cover up failures and maintain power. My wife's disappearance had been part of a larger plan to silence those who questioned, and my brother's involvement wasn't accidental. He'd stumbled upon a truth too dangerous to exist. The entire town, every whispered rumor and secret glance, was part of a conspiracy so vast and intricate it defied belief. Their chilling explanation forced me to confront a brutal reality. The enemy wasn't just one person, but an entire system willing to sacrifice anything to keep its grip. In that moment, the psychological battle began, a dance of wills where every word was a weapon and every silence a trap. I refused to back down, fueled by the love I had for my wife and the desperate hope of finding my brother alive. We traded truths and threats, the villain trying to break me with promises of destruction and isolation, while I clung to the fragments of hope and trust that remained. The weight of years of secrets pressed down, but beneath it all was a fierce determination to bring this nightmare to light, no matter the cost. Just when I thought I had grasped the full extent of the betrayal, the ground shifted once more with an unexpected twist that shattered everything. My wife stepped forward, not as the victim I had imagined, but as a reluctant accomplice who had been playing a dangerous game to protect us both. She revealed that her disappearance had been a choice, a calculated move to infiltrate the secret society from within, gathering the pieces needed to bring them down. The fear and distance I had misread as weakness were her armor against forces I could barely comprehend. Her confession rewrote our entire story, turning the narrative from one of loss and suspicion into a battle for justice and survival. Together, we faced the enemy, united in a fight that was as much about reclaiming our lives as it was about exposing the darkness that had haunted our town for decades. The climax erupted in a chaotic confrontation where alliances shattered, truths were laid bare, and the town's deepest secrets spilled into the open like poison. It was a battle not just of fists or weapons, but of trust and betrayal, hope and despair. The tension was suffocating as every moment teetered on the edge of disaster, with lives hanging in the balance and the future uncertain. But just as victory seemed within reach, a final, devastating revelation hit like a knife. Someone we had trusted implicitly was the true mastermind behind it all, manipulating events from the shadows with a twisted agenda that none of us saw coming. The shock sent ripples through every alliance, leaving us reeling and questioning everything once again. As the dust settled, I realized the story was far from over. The truth had been uncovered, yes, but the cost was steep, and the fight for justice had only just begun. The small town we thought we knew was forever changed, its secrets now exposed, but its wounds still raw. And in the silence that followed, one question echoed louder than all the rest. What price are we willing to pay for the truth? In the quiet aftermath of everything unraveling, when the dust had settled and the town's darkest secrets were no longer whispers but spoken truths, I found myself standing at a crossroads that felt both liberating and unsettling. The conspiracy, the betrayals, and the disappearances had been exposed, and while justice had begun its slow march forward, the scars remained, etched deeply into the lives of everyone involved. My wife and brother, once lost in shadows, were now parts of a story that stretched far beyond them, a tale of courage, sacrifice, and the price of uncovering the truth. Yet even with answers, peace was elusive. The weight of what we'd faced lingered, a reminder that some secrets, once unearthed, never fully fade. The church, the experiments, the hidden society, they were all pieces of a puzzle that had been shattered and glued back together imperfectly, leaving cracks through which doubt and fear still seeped. I learned that truth is never simple, that the past's grip is long, and that sometimes, surviving means carrying the unknown alongside the known. As I look back now, it's clear this story is about more than just a missing person or a haunted church. It's about the fragility of trust and the strength it takes to confront the darkest corners of our lives and communities. The people I thought I knew were shadows of themselves, shaped by secrets and survival, and the line between victim and perpetrator blurred until all that remained was the undeniable complexity of human nature. I'm left reflecting on the quiet moments of doubt, the choices made in desperation, and the unspoken fears that drove so many to silence. The answers we found didn't erase the pain or the questions, but they opened a door, a chance for healing, for truth to live in the light, even if that light casts long shadows. But as the sun rises over our town today, a subtle tension remains, an unshakable feeling that the story is not quite finished. The last message I received, the one that warned me to stop, still echoes in my mind. Was it a final threat or a cryptic hint that beneath the surface, some things remain hidden? The faces of those involved linger in my thoughts, their motives and loyalties never fully clear. This mystery has changed me, taught me that sometimes the greatest truths come wrapped in riddles, and that the most profound stories don't have neat endings. Maybe that's the real takeaway, that in seeking answers, we learn more about ourselves and the shadows that live within us all. I share this story not just to reveal what happened, but to invite you to think about the secrets your own communities hold, the things we choose to ignore, and the courage it takes to face the unknown.